I never thought I would be in a situation like this, but here I am, still trying to wrap my head around what happened. My sister-in-law, Joseline, 38, female, and her twin brother, my husband, Jaden, 38, male, have always had a complicated relationship. She has a habit of expecting people to drop everything for her, and Jaden has always tried to keep the peace. I, 36, female, have had my fair share of issues with her, but nothing could have prepared me for what she pulled recently. Joseline has a 3-year-old daughter, Serena. She is adorable, but a handful like most toddlers. Joseline is a single mom, and while I sympathize with her struggles, she often expects others to step up and take responsibility for Serena whenever it suits her. She makes last-minute plans and assumes I will babysit just because I do not have a traditional 9-to-5 job. I work from home, which she seems to think means I do nothing all day. A few weeks ago, Joseline called me and asked if I could watch Serena over the weekend because she had a girls' trip planned. She barely gave me any details, just expected me to say yes. I had already made plans with Jaden, and honestly, I was getting tired of always being her backup babysitter. I told her no. She did not argue much, which surprised me, but I figured she had found someone else or changed her plans. The weekend came and Jaden and I were out running errands when I got a frantic call from Joseline. She was screaming, demanding to know why I wasn't at her house. I was confused and told her I never agreed to babysit. That's when she dropped the bomb. She had already left for her trip, assuming I would come over. Serena was home alone. My heart dropped. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I asked her how long Serena had been alone, and she said she left that morning, meaning her 3-year-old had been by herself for hours. I told Jaden, and we immediately drove to Joseline's house. I was shaking the whole way there, imagining all the things that could have gone wrong. When we got there, Serena was sitting on the living room floor, holding a juice box, watching cartoons. I do not know if she had eaten anything all day. The house was a mess, and there was no sign that Joseline had made any preparations for her before leaving. I scooped Serena up and checked her over, relieved that she seemed physically okay, but I was furious. While I was tending to Serena, Joseline called again. She had gone from panicked to furious, accusing me of abandoning her child. She screamed that I was the one being irresponsible and that if anything had happened to Serena, it would have been my fault. She said I had agreed to babysit. She was convinced that I had given her a vague answer that counted as a yes. I knew I hadn't. When I told her that she was the one who left her child alone, she flipped it on me, saying that if I did not stay and take care of Serena, she would call the cops on me for child abandonment. I couldn't even process what I was hearing. She was the one who had abandoned her child, yet she was threatening to get me in trouble for it. It was so absurd that I almost laughed, but I was too angry and too shocked. Jaden was furious. He grabbed my phone and told Joseline that she had lost her mind. He told her that she was lucky we found Serena before anything had happened, and that she should be the one worried about the cops, not me. That's when Joseline panicked. She started backtracking, saying she wasn't serious and that she had just been stressed. She begged us not to call the authorities. At that point, I did not care what Joseline had to say. I focused on Serena. She was too young to understand what was happening, but I could see she was a little unsettled, probably from being alone all day. Jaden and I gave her something to eat and made sure she was comfortable before figuring out what to do next. Joseline continued to blow up our phones, alternating between yelling at us and begging us to cover for her. Serena kept looking up at me with big innocent eyes, completely unaware of the chaos happening around her. She was small, fragile, and completely dependent on the adults in her life. The fact that Joseline had been so careless with her own child made my blood boil. I had always known Joseline was self-centered, but this was beyond anything I could have imagined. Joseline's entitlement had always been an issue. When she first had Serena, she expected everyone in the family to pitch in and raise her. I understood that single motherhood was hard and I was willing to help out when I could, but she treated me like a built-in babysitter. She never asked. She just assumed she did not respect my time, my responsibilities, or the fact that I had my own life to live. I remembered all the times she had dropped Serena off with little to no notice, acting like it was my duty to watch her child. The way she would make last-minute plans and throw a tantrum when I refused. The way she always framed herself as the victim no matter what. And now she had abandoned her child for an entire day, and somehow she still had the audacity to blame me. Jaden paced around the living room, rubbing his temples, clearly struggling to process everything. He had always been protective of Joseline, even when she was out of line, but this was too much even for him. I could see the realization hitting him, that his twin sister had crossed a line that couldn't be ignored. Serena tugged at my sleeve, asking for more juice. I handed her another box and watched as she sat quietly, sipping and watching her cartoons like nothing was wrong. My heart ached for her. She did not deserve this. No child did. Joseline kept calling. I put my phone on silent and focused on Serena. Jaden sat down beside me, running a hand through his hair. We were both exhausted, emotionally drained. I knew this wasn't over. I knew Joseline wasn't going to just accept responsibility for what she had done. She never did. I kept thinking about what could have happened if we hadn't gone to check on Serena. If Joseline had left town, assuming I would magically appear to take care of her child. What would have happened if I hadn't? What if Serena had wandered outside? What if she had gotten hurt? The possibilities made my stomach turn. Jaden finally picked up one of Joseline's calls. I couldn't hear what she was saying, but I could tell from Jaden's expression that it was more of the same. Deflection, excuses, blaming everyone but herself. He cut her off mid-sentence, telling her that she needed to come back immediately. Then he hung up. I glanced at the clock. It had been nearly 7 hours since Joseline had left. 7 hours that a 3-year-old had been alone. I did not know how to move forward from this. I did not know if I could ever trust Joseline again. What kind of mother does something like this? I never thought Joseline could make things any worse for herself, but somehow she managed to. After everything that happened, I knew I couldn't just let it slide. Leaving a 3-year-old alone for an entire day wasn't just irresponsible, it was dangerous. I did not care how much Joseline tried to twist things. There was no way I was going to let her get away with this, so I called CPS. It wasn't an easy decision. I knew it would blow up the entire family dynamic, and I knew that Joseline would come after me with everything she had. But I kept thinking about Serena. If I let this slide, what would stop Joseline from doing it again? What if, next time, something awful happened? I wasn't willing to take that risk. When I made the call, I gave them all the details. How long Serena had been alone, the condition of the house, and how Joseline had tried to manipulate the situation by threatening to call the cops on me for her own negligence. They took it seriously, and within hours, they were at her house. Joseline, of course, lost her mind when she found out. She was still on her trip when they showed up, which made things even worse for her. She had to cut her vacation short, rushing back to deal with the mess she had created. By the time she got home, the authorities had already seen everything they needed to see. She was in serious trouble and she knew it. But instead of admitting she had messed up, she doubled down and she went into full-on victim mode, telling everyone in the family that I had betrayed her, that I had ruined her life over a misunderstanding. She spun the story so hard that for a moment, some people actually started to believe her. She told them I had promised to babysit, that I had backed out last minute just to spite her, and that I had done this all out of some personal vendetta. It did not matter that none of it was true. She said it with so much confidence that people started questioning me. Jaden, thankfully, had my back. He was there. He knew the truth, and he shut down every single one of Joseline's attempts to rewrite history. But that did not stop her from trying. When her attempts to turn the family against me did not work, she decided to take things even further. She called CPS herself, made a false report against me. She told them that I had been neglecting Serena, that I had refused to take care of her when she needed me, and that I was the real problem. I was stunned when they reached out to me for follow-up questions, asking me to clarify details about Joseline's accusations. I had thought this was over, that she had learned her lesson, but no. Instead of taking responsibility, she was trying to drag me down with her. I couldn't believe how far she was willing to go just to avoid facing the consequences of her own actions. The accusations did not hold up, of course. I had the truth on my side. I provided proof that I had never agreed to babysit, that I hadn't even known Serena was alone until Joseline called me in a panic. I even showed them the text messages where Joseline was alternating between threatening me and begging me to cover for her. CPS saw right through her lies. That should have been the end of it, but Joseline wasn't done. She started telling people that I had set her up. She said I had intentionally refused to babysit just so I could report her. She painted herself as the helpless single mother who had been targeted by her cruel, heartless sister-in-law. It was honestly laughable if it weren't so infuriating. But what really shocked me was that some people actually believed her. Despite all the evidence and despite how absurd her claims were, there were still family members who thought I had gone too far by calling CPS. They said I should have handled it within the family, that I should have just watched Serena and talked to Joseline later. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Joseline had abandoned her child. She had left a 3-year-old alone for an entire day. She had tried to manipulate me into taking the blame. She had called CPS on me with false accusations, and somehow people still wanted me to be the bad guy. Jaden was livid. He called out every single person who tried to defend Joseline, reminding them that if we hadn't shown up, Serena could have been seriously hurt. That shut most of them up, but I could tell some of them still thought I had overreacted, as if calling CPS was worse than what Joseline had actually done. Joseline, meanwhile, was facing real consequences. CPS wasn't just letting this go. They were looking into her. And she was under serious scrutiny. She was furious, but she had no one to blame but herself. She had spent so much time trying to frame me that she hadn't realized how much trouble she was actually in. And now there was nothing she could do to get out of it. She sent me a long, angry message accusing me of ruining her life, saying that I had taken things too far, that if she lost custody of Serena, it would be my fault. I did not even respond because the truth is, Joseline did this to herself. And if losing custody was even on the table, that just proved how unfit she was to be a mother in the first place. Now, the family is divided. Some people are on my side, saying I did the right thing, that Serena's safety comes first. Others think I went too far, that I should have let it go. Joseline is still trying to paint herself as the victim, still trying to twist the story in her favor. But at the end of the day, none of that matters. All that matters is that Serena is safe. But now I'm left wondering, did I really do the right thing? Or did I take it too far? AITA? Update 1. Serena had been taken away from Joseline and placed with Jaden and Joseline's parents. The investigation had been swift, and the authorities had made their determination. Joseline was unfit to care for her child. Her neglect, her reckless abandonment, her complete disregard for Serena alone, because she trusted that someone would come for her. She tried to blame me, claiming that I had set her up, that I was out to destroy her life out of jealousy or spite. But none of it mattered. The evidence against her was overwhelming. She was officially declared an unfit parent, stripped of any visitation rights and told in no uncertain terms that she had no claim to Serena anymore. Joseline's parents, though heartbroken over the situation, knew this was the right call. They had watched her reckless behavior escalate for years, and this was the breaking point. They stepped in without hesitation, offering Serena a safe home, a place where she would never again have to worry about being abandoned. Jaden, too, was shaken by everything that had happened. He felt guilty, wondering if he had failed his niece by not realizing how bad things had gotten sooner. But he was committed to making sure she was protected now. Joseline refused to accept responsibility. Instead of reflecting on what she had done, she turned her anger outward. She flooded social media with cryptic, melodramatic posts about betrayal and family disloyalty. She painted herself as the victim, accusing everyone around her of conspiring to ruin her life. Some of her friends blindly supported her at first, but as the truth became more public, even they started to distance themselves. It was hard to defend someone who had abandoned a 3-year-old for a vacation. She tried to fight back in whatever way she could. She attempted to take legal action, but no lawyer would take her case seriously. She made frantic calls to family members, begging them to speak on her behalf, but they refused. Even those who had once defended her were disgusted by what she had done. Slowly, Joseline found herself more and more isolated. Desperate, she tried to turn the tables, claiming that she had been wrongfully accused. She spread rumors that I had lied to CPS out of revenge, that I had exaggerated the situation to make her look worse. But it did not work. The truth was already out there, and there was no changing it now. No amount of lies or manipulation could undo what she had done. With Serena safe and away from Joseline's care, I should have felt complete relief. And in some ways I did. I knew that she was finally in a home where she would be loved, where she wouldn't have to fear being abandoned again, but the whole situation still weighed on me. I had never wanted to be in this position. I had never wanted to be the one to call CPS. But when faced with what Joseline had done, I had no choice. Joseline's downfall did not happen overnight, but it was inevitable. She had spent years skating by, making reckless decisions, treating responsibility like an afterthought. And this time, though, she had gone too far. There was no coming back from this. As much as she tried to fight it, the reality was inescapable. She had lost Serena, and she had no one to blame but herself. Update 2. Joseline has taken to social media, complaining loudly and incessantly about how unfairly she's been treated. She refuses to take any responsibility for what happened and instead has been blaming everyone, me, Jaden, our family, even her friends. She insists that she's the real victim, that she's been betrayed by the people who are supposed to stand by her. One post in particular stood out. She claimed that her friends had forced her to go on the trip and abandon Serena, that they pressured her into leaving everything behind and manipulated her into making a mistake. She painted herself as someone who had no choice, as if she had been coerced into the entire situation. But that backfired spectacularly. Her friends had no idea that she had left Serena alone. They had assumed she had made proper childcare arrangements, that she had done the responsible thing before leaving. The moment they saw her post, they started calling her out. One after another they commented, denying her claims, exposing her lies. Some even shared messages where Joseline had excitedly planned the trip, talked about needing a break and bragged about how freeing it would be. Now, even the people who might have stood by her have turned against her. No one wants to be associated with her. She's lashing out worse than before, making wilder accusations, digging herself deeper into her delusions. The more she fights, the more isolated she becomes, and it seems like for the first time in her life she's realizing she can't manipulate her way out of this one. At first, she doubled down, responding to every comment, trying to convince people that she was telling the truth. But every time she tried to argue, more screenshots, more evidence, and more receipts were posted, proving her wrong. She started deleting comments, blocking people, rewriting her posts. But it was too late. People had seen the truth and they weren't letting her rewrite history. Joseline then switched tactics. If she couldn't get people to believe she was innocent, she would at least make them pity her. She started posting long, rambling messages about how she was struggling, how she was being unfairly judged, how she felt alone and betrayed. She claimed that losing Serena had broken her and that the world was punishing her too harshly for what she called a simple mistake. She started hinting at wanting sympathy, hoping that someone, anyone, would come to her defense. But it did not work. The more she tried to play the victim, the more people reminded her of the reality of what she had done. Some of her former friends were openly disgusted, saying that they had stood by her for years, excused her behavior, and given her chance after chance, but this was too far. Even people who had never personally been involved started commenting, saying that no mother should ever leave a child alone the way she had. The overwhelming consensus was that she had done this to herself. Joseline started getting desperate. She made a new post where she claimed that she had been framed, that someone, me, Jaden, or even her own parents, had called CPS on her as part of some grand scheme to take Serena away. She insisted that this was all a setup, that she was the target of a calculated effort to ruin her life. She even started spreading rumors that Jaden and I had wanted Serena all along and had plotted to make her look bad so we could take custody of her. That lie did not last long either. More and more people started fact-checking her, pointing out the inconsistencies in her stories. Some even started sharing private conversations they'd had with her over the years. Ones where she had made comments about not wanting to be a mother, about feeling trapped, about wishing she had more freedom. It became painfully clear that she wasn't some helpless mother who had been tricked. She had always resented the responsibility, and she had willingly made the choice to leave Serena behind. She started losing followers, losing allies, losing any shred of credibility she had left. Even some family members who had once defended her were backing away. She started lashing out even more aggressively, posting rage-filled rants about how everyone had turned against her, about how the world was unfair. She jumped between self-pity and rage, between trying to act like the victim and trying to attack those who had betrayed her. It was like watching a slow-motion train wreck, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. Then, in a last-ditch effort to regain control, she started targeting me directly. She made a series of posts accusing me of being the mastermind behind everything. She claimed I had always been jealous of her, that I had wanted to see her fail, that I had gone out of my way to ruin her life. She said I had manipulated the situation, that I had twisted the truth, that I had intentionally turned everyone against her. At first I ignored it. I knew better than to engage with her madness, but then she took it a step further. She started reaching out to people privately, trying to turn them against me. She sent messages to mutual friends, to extended family, even to people at my job trying to spread lies about me. She was desperate to shift the blame and desperate to find someone else to take the fall for what she had done. But that plan also backfired. Most people saw right through it. They knew who Joseline was. They had seen her behavior, watched her spiral, and recognized her for what she was. Instead of believing her lies, they warned me about what she was doing. Some even called her out publicly, exposing her attempts to manipulate and deflect blame yet again. Joseline's world was crumbling and she knew it. But instead of taking a step back, instead of reflecting on what had led her here, she kept fighting, kept trying to control the narrative. But the truth was already out there. No amount of social media posts, no amount of rage or self-pity was going to change what she had done. Now she's more alone than ever. Her friends want nothing to do with her. Her family is exhausted by her behavior, and the rest of the world has moved on, leaving her to sit in the mess she created. But even after all this, I know she's not done. She's never been one to accept consequences. I have no doubt that she's already planning her next move, already thinking of a new way to twist the story in her favor. The only question is, how far will she go this time? Update 3. Joseline recently had a very public breakdown. It started with a long emotional post where she declared that she would do anything to get Serena back. She made grand claims about how she had changed, how she had learned from her mistakes, how she was ready to fight for her daughter. She blamed the system, the people around her, and even fate for what had happened, insisting that she was being unfairly punished. Her breakdown did not stop at just one post. Over the next few days, she flooded her social media with desperate messages, vague threats and self-pitying rants. She accused people of conspiring against her, hinted that she was being silenced, and tried to paint herself as a tragic figure who had been cruelly separated from her child. Some people initially felt sympathy for her, but that quickly faded when it became clear that her words weren't backed by any real action. Despite all her claims that she was working to be better, there has been absolutely no change from her side. She hasn't attended parenting classes, hasn't sought therapy, and hasn't taken any real steps towards proving she can be a responsible parent. Every promise she makes seems empty. Every declaration of change is just words with no action behind it. She says she's fighting, but all she's doing is posting online and blaming everyone else for what happened. Her parents have tried talking to her, but she either ignores them or lashes out. Jaden has stopped engaging completely. He's focused on Serena and making sure she's happy and well cared for. He has said multiple times that if Joseline truly wanted her daughter back, she would be showing some real effort by now. Instead, she keeps making excuses, crying online and hoping someone will step in and fix everything for her. Meanwhile, Serena is thriving. She's happy, well taken care of, and surrounded by love. Jaden and Joseline's parents have made sure she has stability, and she seems to be adjusting well to her new routine. She laughs, plays, has a sense of security she never had before. She does not ask about Joseline. If she notices her absence, she does not mention it. Joseline keeps saying she's trying, but the truth is clear to everyone. There's no visible effort, no real attempt to make amends. It's all just noise, and the only person she seems to be fooling is herself. As time passes, fewer and fewer people are paying attention to her. Her once dramatic posts are getting less engagement. People are moving on while she stays stuck in the same cycle of blaming others and refusing to take responsibility. Update 4. It has been a while since I gave an update. Joseline has actually worked a lot on herself. She started attending therapy, took parenting classes, has been making a genuine effort to prove she's capable of being a responsible mother. At first, many people were skeptical, but over time, she has shown consistency and real change. Not just empty promises or dramatic posts. She has stopped blaming others for her mistakes and has taken full responsibility for what happened. It hasn't been easy for her, but she has put in the work to prove that she truly wants to be better. Because of her progress, she has been granted visitation rights with supervision. This was a big step, and so far it seems to be going well. Serena and Joseline have started rebuilding their relationship, and they both seem to be happier now. Serena's comfortable and enjoys spending time with her mother, which is something I wasn't sure would happen. At first, she was hesitant, but as time passed, she became more open and excited to see Joseline. Joseline, on the other hand, is handling things much better than before. She is patient, attentive, and genuinely puts in the effort to make every visit meaningful. She follows the rules set by the court and does not try to push boundaries. She no longer makes excuses or tries to shift blame. She simply focuses on proving herself as a mother. It's a huge change from how she used to be, and I have to admit, I am surprised by how much she has improved. It's still a long road ahead, but right now everything is still supervised and there's no guarantee of what will happen in future. But for the first time, it actually feels like she might be on the right path. She has shown that she's willing to work hard and do what's necessary to be in her daughter's life. It is a complete turnaround from how she was when this all started, and it makes me hopeful that maybe, just maybe, she can actually do better now. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.